So, first off,
Hi.
let's introduce ourselves.
Yeah, Johan Coorg, traveling around, finding myself in Belgium, in northern Belgium, in Flanders. I think it's called Brasschaat, is that right?
Yes.
At Alpha Audio here, which is an absolutely fantastic store. Real world class, I'm really impressed. So.
And what are you doing here?
Well, we're doing a kind of an open house based around Kef and our latest products, giving the opportunity for people to hear about our latest high-end products. Quite well known to people on the internet are, for example, our blades, which are now 2 models. We've got the latest Blade 2 and our new reference series. And everything's here. We're having sort of quite interesting workshop with people who are really interested, and it's an absolute pleasure to do in such a great store with such great facilities.
Well, if we go and talk a bit about the Blade and reference series, what kind of philosophy are they built?
Well, the shared philosophy around both Blade and reference actually emanates from the fundamental research done for the original Blade, which was we wanted to start with a clean piece of paper to create new drivers, to create a quantum leap forward in technical performance of the drivers to achieve 2 things. 1, high dynamic capability, and 2, extremely low distortion, particularly in the critical mid-band. And after the research, we launched Blade. The other big idea, theory, was to take UniQ to its furthest extreme. What I mean by that is by equidistantly and symmetrically hanging 4 driven bass drivers around a UniQ. It's a configuration we call single apparent source, and basically the advantages of that, you get kind of 2 massive 3-dimensional balls of punktbron, a Dutch word, point source, and the design advantages, spin-off of that, was very high performance loudspeaker, high-end loudspeaker, which is of course certain performances expected, but we could go wild on the design by fitting it into a very sculptural, very interesting, very unique, elegant type enclosure, and therefore the Blade was born. Our approach since then, in fact for all our products, has kind of emanated from the fundamental study we did for Blade. Of course, it's a high-end loudspeaker, and you've got more material to throw at it, but to update our reference series, and last year we launched our brand new reference complete series of loudspeakers, which are 2 floor standers and a bookshelf, 2 center channels, and a reference subwoofer now. Reference is really very well known at Kef. It's a methodology, it's an approach, hand-built, 1 man builds 1 pair, very strict pair matching.
Should it be considered to be a flagship series from Kef?
I think we have, flagship can often mean defined price. So our ultimate flagship is the Muon, which is crazy, which we've also updated to latest technology, Muon Mark II, to be in line technology-wise. But for us, flagship doesn't mean just price. It's a different approach. We've since brought out the Blade 2, which is about a third smaller in volume than the Blade, but otherwise Blade in every way. So we've got 2 Blade products, which are now a 2-speaker series with a certain approach, and Reference is another flagship line, taking it to its furthest extent. It's really strange. Almost our very affordable LS50, just one product, has kind of become a one-product flagship, and it's something which almost everybody can afford. But we wanted to achieve consistency. Reference is very differently styled to Blade. It's obvious. It's much more a square box, albeit a very elegant, very neat, very slim, more traditional box-type loudspeaker. And there are different issues to deal with. The blade, the front of the blade, for example, is beautifully curved away to let dispersion be optimized out of the Uni-Q. With the flat front baffle of Reference, we build around the Uni-Q what we call a shadow flare, which stops diffraction from the flat edges of the box.
If I'm getting this correct, whereas you have the Blade 2, which was more about letting yourself go when you look at the design.
Blade. That started with Blade, and then we did Blade 2. Reference. The style of Blade is not for everybody. It really isn't. It's most people love it, but it's not for everybody. It's quite out there. Well, it's quite radical kind of design. In terms of looks, it's fairly unique. Whereas one could say that the Reference are more conservative looking.
It's more a
classical approach, and some people prefer that. But within that, it has to work as a loudspeaker, and it has to bear the hallmarks of, something which does cost considerable money. So it has to be beautifully built and be attractive in itself. Therefore, Reference come in all sorts of finishes, and when you look very closely at the Reference, they're absolutely expensively and beautifully detailed.
All right. Well, what do these speakers do when you listen to them back at home? Because I'm assuming
they disappear.
They disappear. How so?
Well, that's something in a well set up system. A speaker should disappear. And everybody's got different rooms, and different, and everybody's got different ways of listening. But certainly, if I talk absolutely personally, close your eyes and a speaker should disappear. I was talking originally about notions of dynamics and low distortion. We've achieved technically a real quantum leap. So you can say that, okay, much better specification. What does it do that's fantastic for me? One might fairly ask. They can play incredibly loud, Blades or Reference, incredibly loud without it hurting your ears because of low distortion, and give them the right horsepower. They're big flagship loudspeakers. There's the engine, you should give them a good engine, a decent amplifier, enough current to control them. And there's various ways of doing that, various brands, various nuances. But at the end of the day, whatever we do, a loudspeaker is right at the end of the chain. And we believe that we should translate nuances going through the system chain without any exaggeration or without anything being masking it.
So is it the powerful sound, albeit it's a powerful controlled sound that the speakers emit?
Yes, if music means different things to different people. I've got personally my own taste in music. For example, the older I get, I find myself buying more and more classical music and attending classical concerts, which would have been unthinkable to me 25 years ago. But music means different things to different people. We want, right back to our founders, original principle to build technically able products and be right up there in our specialism to produce a sound which is without artifact, without exaggeration, not forced from our point of view. Of course, it's all subjective.
Last question is what's the? I already asked you this a couple of minutes ago. But what's the main difference between the Blade 2 and the reference?
To put it as simply as possible, it's the performance, the way the sound is pushed out. With the single apparent source configuration, actually, for instance, the Blade 2 and the Reference 5 have exactly the same bass drivers, but they're side firing on the bass, and so they're hung around the UniQ, and it creates two kind of three-dimensional massive balls of point source full frequency sound. Whereas on the Reference series, it's a more traditional approach in that all the drivers are front firing, and it's the symmetrical array in terms of the UniQ, the mids and highs, with the mid absolutely in the middle, that's a UniQ, are symmetrically placed between the four bass drivers on the Reference 5, 2 on the Reference 3. So it's a Dapalito configuration, but it's a UniQ Dapalito, which is interesting. So you get this kind of more of this kind of performance.
It's not really straightforward. It's more of a straightforward thing that they
hemisphere to oversimplify it. I suppose so. Yeah. Whereas the Blade is a little bit more like that. And people listen for different things. We've been discussing here with really great enthusiasts, and we've had great discussions, people discussing. But one thing we've tried to achieve at Kef is a consistency of sound. In other words, there is a Kef sound. It's clearly there is subjectivity involved there. In the end, the tuning is done by us, and the best we can hope is that people like it. And happy to say that a lot of people do. We're doing okay.
All right. Well, thank you for the interview.
Pleasure.
Thank you for your time.
Great to be here. Thanks.
That's it.